In this episode of The Atomic Zone, we travel to rural Louisiana in the 1950s, where the air is thick with heat, swamp fog, and old superstitions that sensible men pretend not to believe in, right up until the moment something begins to believe in them. The story opens outside a weathered farmhouse under a gray southern sky. Cicadas drone in the distance. A county ambulance is parked in the dirt yard, and two attendants carry a body bag down the porch steps, while a few silent neighbors watch from across the road. Standing nearby are three men: Bob the coroner, tired and uneasy in a wrinkled suit; Sheriff Andy, calm and hard-eyed, with the lazy authority of a man used to being feared; and John, a shaken local man in his 30s, staring blankly as his father's body is loaded away. Through their tense conversation, we learn that the dead man was Jonathan, John's father. In the last few days, he had gone violently insane. He had barricaded himself inside the house, screaming over and over that something is coming. He clawed at the windows, tore through the furniture, and in one horrifying fit of madness, mutilated himself, cutting away his own eyelids as if he were desperate never to blink again. By the time they broke in, he had finally done the unthinkable and taken his own life. The three men speak of it in low voices, each pretending this is only the result of guilt and grief. But as they talk, another truth begins to emerge, uglier, darker, and much more dangerous. Not long before this, the three of them, along with Jonathan, had entered into a secret conspiracy. Jonathan's wife, John's stepmother, had died suddenly, and the town believed it to be illness or misfortune. But it was neither. She had been poisoned, deliberately, quietly, carefully. And these four men were responsible. They had killed her for the insurance money. As they stand in the yard, they speak about the dead woman with a cruel, familiar contempt. They call her strange, unstable, mean. One of them laughs and says she thought she was a witch. Another laughs harder and says maybe she really was one. The joke hangs in the air longer than it should, because for all their mockery, each of them had feared her in his own way. She had spoken in riddles, filled the house with strange charms and powders, and always seemed to know things she should not know. They all dismissed her as delusional, but they also poisoned her anyway, just to be safe, just to be rid of her, just to get paid. And paid they were. The insurance money was split 4 ways, and the murder was buried as neatly as the woman herself. Now with Jonathan dead, the balance has changed. When Bob leaves to supervise the body, Sheriff Andy lingers with John in the yard. His tone softens, but only enough to sharpen the threat underneath it. He says that with Jonathan gone, there is now an orphaned share of the money. And since keeping secrets is expensive work, he believes that share should belong to him. John stares at him in disbelief. The extortion is so open, so shameless, that for a moment he can only laugh. Then the fear gives way to anger. He tells Andy that if this turns into a squeeze, then they all go down together. Bob, Andy, Jonathan's memory. All of it. He says he is not giving up another cent, and if Andy presses him, he will confess the whole thing. That night, the sheriff sits alone in his office, the station dim and nearly empty. A fan turns slowly overhead. The clock ticks. Then the telephone rings. Andy answers, irritated at first, but on the other end is John, hysterical, breathless, nearly incoherent. He is crying, choking, babbling the same words again and again. Something is coming. Something is coming. Andy tries to get an answer, but all he hears is a scream, a crash, and then the line goes dead. The next scene finds Andy and Bob outside John's house, lit by patrol headlights and lantern glow. Another body bag is being carried out. Bob, who had seemed detached before, now looks visibly shaken. His hands tremble as he unzips the bag just enough for Andy to see inside. John's face is gone. Not bruised, not cut, not mangled in any ordinary way. It has been torn off, bitten away as if by some savage animal, or something even worse. Bob mutters that he does not understand it. It looks like an attack, but there are no tracks, no broken windows, no signs that anything natural could have done this. He calls it some kind of wild animal, but even he does not believe himself. Andy stares at the body with grim confusion. He is not a man easily horrified, but something in him has begun to loosen. The following day, he is at his desk again trying to bury his unease beneath paperwork and cigarettes, when the telephone rings once more. This time it is Bob, and just like John before him, Bob is screaming. Something is coming. Oh God, something is coming. The line rattles with panic, and then there is a wet, terrible sound, a scream cut short, and silence. The penultimate scene reveals what happened. Bob is found dead in the coroner's office, slumped over his desk, and like John, his face has been completely bitten off by something that left almost no trace except blood, ruin, and terror frozen into the posture of his body. Clara, Bob's assistant, is the one who found him, and the image has shattered whatever composure she once had. The final act takes place later that night in a dim bar somewhere off the highway, thick with cigarette smoke and neon beer signs. The sheriff sits in a booth with Clara. It is immediately clear that they are more than acquaintances. There is a secret familiarity between them, the stale intimacy of two people bound by weakness and opportunism. Clara is pale and rattled, speaking in hushed bursts, trying and failing to describe what she saw in Bob's office. She says it looked as if some madman, or some beast, had leaned over him and eaten him alive. She cannot stop shaking. Finally, she excuses herself and disappears toward the restroom, leaving the Sheriff Andy alone at the bar. And here, for the first time, he allows himself a thin smile. He pulls out a thick wallet full of cash. Jonathan dead, John dead, Bob dead. Whatever curse or coincidence has taken them, Andy is still here, still breathing, still richer than before. He peels off a few bills for the bartender with the smug satisfaction of a man who thinks he has outlived justice. Then he blinks, he pauses. In the center of his vision is a tiny pale pink dot. He rubs his eyes. He blinks again. The dot is still there, closer now, slightly larger. He frowns, downs a shot of whiskey, and squeezes his eyes shut hard as if to clear them. But with every blink, every moment of darkness, the thing comes nearer. At first it is only a blur, then a shape, then a face, or rather the hideous parody of one. What emerges from the darkness is the dead woman they murdered, but transformed into something monstrous, skin pale and corpse soft, eyes full of furious intelligence, and a mouth stretched wide with rows of shark-like teeth. Not a ghost, not a woman, not anything that belongs in the world of the living. She advances only when his eyes are closed, rushing closer each time the darkness falls, until Andy realizes with mounting horror that blinking has become a door. He sits frozen at the bar, eyes watering, refusing to close them, his whole body trembling with the effort. The room around him fades beneath the primal panic on his face. Sweat rolls down his temple. His vision burns. He tries to hold on, tries not to blink, tries not to give the dark another inch. But no man can keep his eyes open forever. At last they close one final time. And in that instant we see the demon witch in full, mouth open impossibly wide, teeth gleaming, flying straight toward us out of the darkness. There's a burst of terrible screaming, then blackness. And the closing narration tells us that in every small town there are crimes buried beneath gossip, money, and convenient lies. But sometimes the dead do not rest quietly, and sometimes guilt does more than haunt a man. Sometimes it prepares a place for justice to find him. In the atomic zone, 4 people thought they had gotten away with murder, but somewhere beyond reason, beyond law, and beyond the last blink of a frightened eye, something was indeed coming.